be here with you guys and do this today. So we are, like I said, going to talk about the 6 types of rage and how to address them. Our objectives for today are to investigate what rage is and some of the potential causes, discuss Dr. Potter Efron's 6 identified types of rage, and explore interventions for those with rage issues. So the difference between anger and rage, when we conceptualize the difference, we can think of them as anger being an emotional response. So is outrage. Outrage is an emotional response, and it can be felt, oftentimes appropriately in response to rudeness, injustice, abuse. It is an active response to an issue and situation occurring at the present time. It takes a minute to be felt and expressed. Anger is about the here and now. So rage is about the there and then. It is a reaction, situations, circumstances, people, processes, and problems that tend to be in the past. It takes a very long time because it is grounded in our personal life history. Aggression is a behavior. Both anger and rage may lead to verbal or physical aggression. So rages are a transformative experience of excessive anger and emotional overload. You become someone noticeably different to yourself, to those around you, and during the episode, but eventually you return to like normal afterwards. They trigger partial or a complete loss of 3 different domains. First is the conscious awareness. The person doesn't remember what they say and does when they rage. During a rage episode, someone could black out or have no memory of what happened. This is different than a blackout caused by substance use. This is when someone says, I don't even remember doing that, or I just saw red. I wasn't even thinking. Second would be like the normal sense of self. So the person feels as if someone else has taken over their own body and actions. So think Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde type of experience. And lastly is the behavioral domain. So their behavioral control. At worst, people who struggle with rage can and do kill people while they are raging. They also destroy precious objects, both their own and others. And they say awful things as well. Oftentimes things they would never say at other times. And like I had said before, like seeing red is real. This is caused by a rush of blood pumped far too quickly and powerfully, causing the capillaries in the eyes to expand rapidly. People cannot be reasoned with or talked down when that's going on. There's also like full rage and partial rage. Partial rage is when a person recognizes what's happening and can regain control of themselves or leave the situation. And then near rage is catching yourself like at the last minute before raging. So for all intents and purposes, the Hulk is going to be our icon for what rage is. And that, like I had said before, this is a transformative experience. In one of, like, full disclosure, I am not a big Avengers buff. I had to do some research on this when I was putting this presentation together to like get myself familiar with it. So here's what I have gathered. In one of Marvel's like Thor movies, Hulk finds a message left behind for him from Black Widow. Now, this is significant because Black Widow is someone he's cared for deeply. She was someone who could help like tame him. One of the times when Bruce Banner has reemerging, he's pretty shaken up and he's confused because it's been about 2 years straight where he wasn't able to switch back and forth between himself and the Hulk as usual. And it's at that time he tells Thor, in the past, I've always felt like Hulk and I each had a hand on the wheel. But this time, it's like he had the keys to the car and I was locked in the trunk. This is a really good metaphor for thinking about how rage affects us and those around us. Too far. So continuing this with this idea of the Hulk being our icon for rage, let's see in how one of these Avengers movie he utilizes that to his advantage. Sorry about that.
Well, we got his attention. What the hell was step 2?
What's the story upstairs?
The power surrounding the cube is impenetrable.
Thor's right. We got to deal with these guys.
How do we do this?
As a team, I have unfinished business with Loki.
Yeah? We'll get in line.
Save it. Loki's gonna keep this fight focused on us, and that's what we need. Without him, these things could run wild.
We got Stark up top. He's gonna need us to...
So, this all seems horrible.
I've seen worse.
Sorry.
No, we could use a little worse.
Stark, we got him.
Banner?
Just like you said.
Then tell him to suit up. I'm bringing the party to you.
I don't see how that's a party.
Dr. Banner. Now might be a really good time for you to get angry.
That's my secret, Captain. I'm always angry.
Hold on.
Send the rest.
Guys,
Call it, Captain.
All right, listen up. Until we can close that portal, our priority is containment. Barton, I want you on that roof, eyes on everything, call out patterns and strays. Stark, you got the perimeter. Anything gets more than 3 blocks out, you turn it back or you turn it to ash.
Can you give me a lift?
Right. Better clench up, Legolas.
Thor, you gotta try and bottleneck that portal. Slow him down. You got the lightning. Light the bastards up. You and me, we stay here on the ground. We keep the fighting here. And Hulk. Smash.
So sometimes rage serves a purpose, but mostly the destructive behaviors and property damage that come along with rage is not something that most people want to have happening. And because of the disruption in the relationships with those around them, their loved ones don't recognize this person and they may even become afraid of them. Now, looking at rage from a physiological standpoint, if you are really into like nerdy, sciencey brain stuff like I am, this is going to be right up your alley. Dopamine is known as the feel-good hormone, However, excess dopamine can trigger rage. This is what stimulant drugs cause to flood the brain. Serotonin is a chemical messenger that affects well-being, like in depression. Insufficient serotonin can make people more irritable or easily angered. Excess testosterone can trigger rage, if you've ever heard of roid rage, or mothers' protective responses towards children are both examples of how hormone imbalance may impact a person's threat response. And then the prefrontal cortex of the brain, which is this front part of the brain that helps us think critically and rationally, decreased activity in that prefrontal cortex, like what occurs during an episode of rage, leads to issues with problem solving and impulse control. So I'm going to put it back on you guys. You can put it in the chat, or you can mic off if you would like. But I'm wondering if you guys can give me a few examples of some of the consequences of rage. There we go.
I would say hurt your loved ones unintentionally.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I see in the chat, we see prison. Yeah. Damage to a relationship. Absolutely. Physical damage. Yes. Very good, guys. These are all perfect examples of some of the consequences of rage. So broken relationships, people become afraid of them and they're labeled as loose cannons. There could also be loss of freedom, temporary protection orders, restraining orders, jail, and prison time. There may also be job loss or financial stress, like associated with legal fees, lost wages, replacing broken possessions. Isolation and distrust, holding grudges, feeling persecuted, some paranoia. And self-hatred and guilt, the anger and shame about breaking promises to never do it again. There are always rewards to negative behavior. That's why people keep doing them. People who struggle with rage learn that they get what they want, not necessarily consciously, but people tend to keep doing what works. It becomes automatic and people get much more adept at it over time through practice. Addictive anger is like getting high from being angry, looking for fight triggers and adrenaline rush. Looking for fight triggers and adrenaline rush, and people start to crave that excitement or that intensity, like the same way they would a high from using drugs. Comorbidity means the existence of more than one condition in your body at the same time. So I'm not going to go over all of these, but I just want to do a quick dive into just 3 of these comorbidities of rage. So substance use and abuse. Substances disinhibits that underlying anger. It can also stuff anger rather than expressing it. It promotes irritability when intoxicated, raging while withdrawing from substances, and long-term personality changes, sometimes due to brain damage. Then there's mental health issues. Intermittent explosive disorder, or IED. It usually begins in the early teens, but it can be seen in children as young as 6. It is most common in people under the age of 40. Probably more common than realized. It may be an important cause of violent behavior. Some studies have found that IED is more common in men. And then trauma. Trauma produces brain changes that are sometimes permanent that lessen the ability to control emotions as a way to keep survivors safe. Trauma symptoms are a natural response to an unnatural event. Raging may be a person's brain feeling as though it needs to fight for its safety. And that's the thing with trauma, is that we get in these situations and these circumstances when these things happen to us, and your body does what it has to do and what it's meant to do by keeping you safe, whatever means necessary. But then afterwards, after the trauma, your body sometimes gets like stuck, for a better word. Like it has a hard time differentiating then, especially if it's been multiple traumas. It has a hard time differentiating between, am I actually in danger right now? I'm not quite sure. So I'm just gonna, better safe than sorry. I'm going to stay in that fight or flight response. The most at risk for rage include people under the age of 25 of any gender, a history of traumatic brain injury or other head injuries, past physical or emotional trauma. As a child, they may have witnessed caregivers or role models raging. Social learning theory says that, people learn best by observing others, and that's especially true with kids who are still like trying to figure out the world. So if they see a parent raging often at other people, at family members, in the car, like they then recognize that as, oh, that's how you're supposed to react. That's what is supposed to happen when you feel like that. There could be strong reactions to shame, rejection, or abandonment. These are very uncomfortable, hard to sit with feelings, but when they are raging, they feel alive and alert or strong. And like I said, they may feel high. Violent childhood outbursts, especially to meet needs, raging or threatening to rage to get what is wanted, and difficulties with anger while intoxicated. People that are like, oh, I can't drink whiskey, it makes me make bad choices, or I get angry when I drink whiskey, things like that. Now, I'm not a substance use specialist, so I'm not sure the validity to, certain alcohols and, rage behavior. I just know that that's something you hear people say often. Okay, so Ronald Potter Efron, he is this clinical psychotherapist, and he is internationally recognized expert in anger. He has more than 30 years of clinical experience and specializes in the treatment of individuals with severe aggression and domestic violence concerns. And over the next several slides, we will go into each of these rage types in more depth. The definition of sudden rage is rapidly appearing, unplanned, and unanticipated transformative anger experience during which a person may lose partial or complete loss of control of their thoughts, feelings, and actions. Rage is felt at a much stronger and deeper level than anger. Not all sudden rages are violent, nor do they last for hours. People have far more mini rages than blowouts. The indicators of sudden rage are it comes on both very quickly and very intensely. A person may be instantly furious at a perceived insult or threat, losing control over what is said or done. The person may black out or having no memory of words or actions. It's possibility they may harm or kill someone during this time. And feeling like you became a different person when angry, seeming strange, scary, or crazy to others around you. Now, I don't know about you, but I am a visual learner. I do best with examples, things that I can take and tie content into, real life or imaginative circumstances that I can actually see that correlation. So for each of these types of rage, I'm going to play you like a quick little video of what that rage may look like. So this is our first one for sudden rage.
Senator Sherrod Brown is doing something about rising housing costs. He introduced a bill to crack down on landlords who jack up rent prices and neglect basic repairs and pass those costs to renters. Tell Sherrod, keep fighting to lower costs.
Hey, Happy Land, just like me.
Don't get excited, kid. I've been here before.
This is embarrassing. I'm a professional golfer, for God's sake.
No, it's a short game that's embarrassing. Come on, let's go. This time, just line up your putt. Don't even look at the hole, huh? Aim for a spot 6 inches in front of the ball. Line up, spot 6 inches in front of the ball.
Okay. 6 inches?
Yes. All right, this one's very tough.
He's laughing. He's having a good time. Good for you. Yeah, laugh it up. Enjoy your night.
Come on, Happy, concentrate.
Hate that clown.
Easy. If you can't beat the clown, how you gonna beat Shooter McGavin?
Yeah! You're gonna die, clown! You think that's funny? I don't hear you laughing now!
Whoa, whoa, whoa! Enough.
Okay. Seething rage. So this is defined as a long-term buildup of fury toward a specific individual or a cluster of individuals. It's a sense of having been victimized. These obsessive thoughts about the situation. There's moral outrage and hatred towards the perceived offenders, and deliberately planned assaults on those targeted offenders. So the indicators of seething rage include unable to quit thinking about past insults and injuries and developing a hatred for others for what they did to you and feeling unable to forgive them. Occasional intense fantasies of revenge against offenders. A belief is formed that certain people or groups or institutions are to blame. The rager wants to hurt others as payback for what was done to them. And feelings grow greater over time instead of diminishing. And outrage continues to grow over what people seem to get away with. So actually, I do apologize. My example here was not a video, but a 2023 report published in the Journal of American Medical Association covering 2014 to 2022 found there had been 4,011 mass shootings in the U.S., most frequent around the southeastern U.S. and Illinois. This was true for mass shootings that were crime violence, school violence, and domestic violence related. And according to the Associated Press, white men comprise nearly 50% of all mass shooters in the U.S., according to the National Institute of Justice and the Violence Project study. The demographics of shooters were 97.7% male, with an average of 34.1 years and 52.3% white. Public mass shootings have tripled since 2011. In 51% of mass shootings, the shooter exhibited dangerous warning signs beforehand. And of 101 mass shootings between 1982 and 2018, 98 of the shooters were male and 58 were white. Now, this background picture is a matrix of several domestic terrorists, all of whom happen to be white men of various ages. Some of them you may recognize. One that I just want to point out that's really interesting and different among the others. So this one here, let's see, this one right here, the very top left. So that is the 2021 Oxford High School shooter of Oxford, Michigan. There were 4 killed and 7 injured. His name is Ethan Crumbley, and he was age 15. And the interesting fact, this was the first school shooting case in the U.S. history, where the parents were also charged for failing to secure the handgun that they had purchased for him. And they were each sentenced to at least 10 years of manslaughter for him going in there and shooting and following through with that mass shooting. they were found to be negligent. That's pretty, I mean, that's for as many years as there has been, this going on. That's pretty groundbreaking that that was able to be connected like that. Okay, survival rage is a feeling of tremendous fury that is triggered by real or imaginative threats to a person's physical safety or survival. The message in survival rage is simple. You are threatening me. You could kill me. I must kill you first. Most people who experience survival rages have been threatened with death at some point in their lives. Now, unfortunately, this way of reacting may outlive its original purpose. You rage when there is no real danger, and you fight for your life when nobody is trying to kill you. The indicators of survival rage include physical fights, where you seem to have incredible strength, blacking out and unable to remember what was said and done. This may result in threatening to hurt or even kill people that you love. Feeling of fighting for my life, even just exchanging words. They may develop a distorted thinking pattern that people intend to harm you. The person could be feeling both very angry and very scared simultaneously. They're startled very easily or reacting strongly to being startled. So for the purposes of collecting statistics, the FBI has defined a hate crime as a criminal offense against a person or property motivated in whole or in part by an offender's bias against a race, religion, disability, sexual orientation, ethnicity, gender, or gender identity. Anti-Islamic hate crimes spiked after 9/11 and have actually never returned to pre-9/11 levels. This FBI chart here, the last year for data is 2017 that I could find for it. This phenomenon has been compared to the treatment of Japanese Americans following Pearl Harbor and to the communist Red Scare of the 1950s that was fueled by the Congressional McCarthy hearings. Impotent rage is tremendous fury that is triggered by the sense of helplessness that occurs when a person is unable to control important situations. The trigger is particularly true of, this trigger is particularly true of Americans and other Western countries that stress independence, self-determination, and taking charge of your own life. It takes a lot of misery to produce impotent rage. You gradually feel more and more desperate as you struggle ineffectively to control your own fate. The indicators for impotent rage include feeling like you want to explode because people weren't listening to you, feeling helpless and furious at a situation you can't control, developing the constant narrative of I just can't take it anymore, feeling like you had to do something, even if it made it worse. And this might include anything on one end of the spectrum, like screaming when things don't go your way, all the way to the other end of the spectrum, like punching and throwing or destroying things. And there's thoughts of revenge towards people in power over you. Now, this next movie trailer that I'm going to show you, this is a little bit older one. What does it say here? 2002. If you have not seen this movie, you are missing out, and you will be able to tell by this trailer here. Oh, I have to take it off the pointer. There we go.
Lieutenant Frank Grimes of Chicago Police Department. Are you the man in charge?
That's right.
Well, who am I speaking to?
John Q.
I assume since all the doors are locked, this is a hostage situation. Is that correct?
Okay. Bless me, Father, for I've sinned. You do things your own way.
Blood pressure is dropping fast. He's going into cardiac arrest.
But I don't understand.
Mike's heart is useless.
He's going to need a transplant or he's going to die.
What made Mike so sick?
Transplant surgery is very expensive.
We got insurance.
There are no provisions in your policy for a procedure of this magnitude.
All right, you want money? I'll get you your money. We've recently switched carriers.
We only give assistance to patients without coverage. I'm sorry, I can't help you.
Have you tried Medicaid?
No, you don't qualify.
My son is dying. I'm broke. If I don't qualify, who the hell does?
I've done everything I can do. I'm sorry.
Please.
They are releasing him. Now you need to do
I'll
something.
take care of it.
Hear me? Do something.
The hospital's under new management now. Everybody does exactly what I say. Nobody will get hurt. Or hurt. I want my kid's name on the donors list.
This is going to end up bad for you, John.
Police will do whatever is necessary to preserve the lives of these hostages.
They're telling me I gotta take my son home and watch him die.
If you could speak to John Q right now, what would you say to him?
I'm there with you and you take care.
5:15, when something happens to me.
Are you praying for him, baby?
Yes, I'm praying, sweetheart.
He's a good kid.
You'd like him.
I am not gonna bury my son.
I got a shot at this guy and I'm gonna take it.
My son is gonna bury me.
Take the shot.
How's it gonna end, John?
I don't know.
So I have an 11-month-old at home, and I have never related to that kind of feeling that Denzel Washington's character had more than till after I had him. Like, that totally makes sense to me now that I've had a kid of my own, where I'm like, oh yeah, I can definitely see how you get to that point. So in shame-based rage, shame is related to tremendous oversensitivity to criticism. This causes someone to feel outraged, defensive, aggressive at perceived insults. That's important. It's what's perceived as insults. Shame is transferred directly into anger, and to sidestep the feeling of humiliation that comes with shame, shame becomes blame, and the deeper the shame, the more powerful the rage. You need to take this shame before it kills me. I might have to destroy you if you don't. So indicators for shame-based rage include furious when perceived that people are disrespecting you. This may include dwelling on or obsessing about put downs, the need to strongly defend your reputation or your good name, and getting irate when you feel ignored. Becoming angry after moments of embarrassment. They may become worried that other people think that they're stupid, ugly, etc. And becoming defensive or enraged when getting criticism. So the epitome of understanding shame-based rage is the quote, "If you think women are crazy, you've never had a dude go from hitting on you to literally threatening to kill you in the time it takes you to say no thanks." There have been numerous stories about men who killed women in rage after they reject their advances. There are also constant examples of men making insults or even rape and death threats to women who reject their advances in person and online. Studies have found that women who kill their abusers, even in self-defense, are given much harsher prison sentences than men who killed their female partners in a fit of rage. Dr. Powder Efron says that abandonment rage is a feeling of tremendous fury that is triggered by real or imagined threats of abandonment, betrayal, or neglect. Indicators for abandonment rage include furious thinking about having been abandoned or betrayed. Feeling neglected or ignored is almost intolerable. Looking for reasons or proof that people cannot be trusted. And this is including feeling cheated for giving more than you get back. Preoccupied with the ideas of payback for rejection or betrayal, and struggling with intense feelings of jealousy. You are unable to accept empathy from who you are angry with. This is another great movie if you haven't seen this one too. So let me go ahead.
A look that led to an evening.
We were attracted to each other at the party. That was obvious. You're on your own for the night. That's also obvious.
A mistake he'd regret all his life.
Now, where's your wife?
Hey, honey. Oh, God.
And you're here with a strange girl being a naughty boy.
I don't think having dinner with anybody's a crime.
I've got to see you.
This is gonna stop.
No, it's not going to stop. It's going to go on and on.
She keeps calling me apart.
Hello?
Every time Beth answers the phone, she hangs up. I'm scared, Jimmy.
You play fair with me? Do you have an affair with her? I'll play fair with you.
I don't want to lose my family.
How could you do that?
So you're scared of me, aren't you? You're afraid. Gutless, heartless, spineless.
If you ever come near my family again, I'll kill you. You understand?
Daddy! I'm not going to be ignored.
Alicia, where's Ellen?
She's gone.
Call the police.
Whatever resentment she's feeling, she's probably got it out of her system.
What if she didn't get it out of her system? What then?
Fatal Attraction.
I guess you thought you'd get away with it. Well, you can't.
Now, in Fatal Attraction, Glenn Close's character, Alex Forrest, was reportedly written as someone with borderline personality disorder. And one of the main criteria for the diagnosis of BPD is actions taken to avoid real or perceived abandonment. Instilling a sense of hope in the people we work with, that they will be able to recover or control their emotions, can be extremely important. However, it is also important to be honest with them that it will likely be a slow process, that they will make mistakes along the way. And now that we've addressed these 6 types of rage, let's look at how a person can work through them. So by following the rage breadcrumbs or connecting these dots, it can lead you to important information on how to get out and ahead of future rage episodes and either avoid them or plan for ones that cannot be avoided. So you may be able to assist people who are struggling with rage and looking for patterns in their rage episodes by examining domains of their lives, such as people they're around, the frequency, intensity, duration, physical location, life stressors, and substance use. And by identifying and appraising the coping skills that they already use, it can help give someone hope that they can strengthen any of their current skills while also trying to develop new ones. Skills already established may be things related to physical activity, social supports, seeing choices, and deep breathing. Many people may actually be trying to stay in control. So remember that near or partial rages are often more frequent than full-blown rages. Developing or strengthening empathy and compassion for others is thought to be one of the most important tools to address rage, anger, resentment, etc. Because rage is an outward-focused process, concentrating on inner thoughts, feelings, attitudes, and beliefs can assist people who struggle with rage in taking into consideration the thoughts and feelings of those who are the identified triggers of their rage. So some examples of how empathy can support a person trying to recover from rage is that it reduces anger by reducing negative judgments and maintains an open, non-critical mental state. And by encouraging self-awareness and reflection, clients need to become more consciously aware of the physical sensations and other bodily cues, which are unconscious messages that the alarm system is active and that they may rage. So a timeout may sound like a juvenile response, but it can be the single most effective action that you can take when you can't catch an anger episode early enough to prevent it completely. Meditation is the increased awareness of the inner process, and mindfulness is the increased awareness of body sensation. So I want to do an exercise with you all on practicing some mindfulness. This is called 5-4-3-2-1 grounding. And it may be something that you can do with the people that you support when you notice them starting to escalate. Okay. Now, the first thing I want you to do is to look around you and identify 5 things that you can see. Try to identify different types of things, not just I see 5 pieces of paper directly in front of me. Okay. So right now I see my phone. I see my fidget. I see my AirPods. I see a bill. Don't mind me. And I see my hair clip. So those are my 5 things that I can see. Secondly, I want you to look around and now identify 4 things that you can touch. And I want you to actually physically touch them right now and try to pick things with different textures. So I feel my wooden desk is 1. I can feel my laptop, that is 2. I can feel this wall next to me would be 3. And I can feel my drink, and that's 4. Next is to get very quiet and identify 3 things that you can hear. You have to really focus and pay attention to the things around you. So right now I can hear the fan behind me going. I can hear the people out cutting the grass. And I can hear my husband talking in a couple rooms away. So now we're going to focus in a little bit more, and we're going to identify 2 things that you could smell. This could be in the room, like air fresheners or cleaning products. Maybe in the ventilation system has like a distinct smell. I always think of like, I don't know why suburban houses, like suburb houses always have like that one distinct smell, or they can be scents that are on you. So I can smell that my hair needs to be washed. That's the first thing I can smell. And I can smell my deodorant. And finally, we are going to identify 1 thing that you can taste. This is usually the last thing that you ate or drank. And so for me, it is my Southern Peach lemonade drink. Cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, works on the assumption that your beliefs influence your emotions and your behavior, and that by identifying and addressing problematic thoughts, you can help to change your behavior and experiences for the better. So by working with a licensed professional, like a counselor or a social worker, CBT can help people who struggle to manage their anger by teaching them different ways to think about the triggering event, which in turn will change the way that they feel and behave as a result. If the person is agreeable to it, you might be able to coordinate with their therapist to see in what ways you can reinforce the work that they're already doing. So it's important to note here that as professionals, we all must remain within our scope of practice. This means, like as an example, just because I am someone who has received a lot of chiropractic care in my life, and I have a family member who's a chiropractor, and I work in a chiropractor's office, does not mean I am qualified to give spinal adjustments. That's very important. So on this cycle of anger diagram here, I'm going to walk you through an example of how cognitive behavioral therapy would work for someone struggling with anger. So let's take the triggering event of being cut off while driving and the person speeding past you. That is like the #1 offense for my husband, right? The negative thought would be something like, that person doesn't care about anyone but themselves, which then leads to an emotional response of rage towards the driver, or maybe feeling disrespected. This brings on the physical sensation of a racing heart, clenched muscles, sweating, then follows the behavioral response of chasing after that person and yelling at them, maybe throwing something out of your car. We can be doing that these days. People are unhinged. Like it is not like how it used to be. So now the triggering events are still going to occur. So even if you're doing CBT, likely at some point you will be cut off while driving. But CBT helps the person intervening at that thought stage. And instead of the negative thought you had last time, you would try to stop yourself and instead think of something like, you know what? Maybe a loved one is in the hospital and they are trying to get there to be with them. This would then change your emotional response to more empathy and understanding. You would bypass those physical symptoms. And maybe if anything, there'd be like a little pang in your heart because you too have had that experience of, you got to rush to the hospital and get there. And then the behavioral response would be to offer them some grace and let it go. We cannot remove a person from their context if we expect to help them cope with their environment or stressors in appropriate ways. Unexpressed emotions will never die. They are buried alive and will come forth later in uglier ways. So if someone has rage issues, but we learn that they came from trauma, a violent, abusive upbringing, this informs us about their worldview and experiences. In the same way that clients with substance use disorders and mental health issues need to address both in order to have the best chance at recovery, the same is true for people who struggle with rage that have a history of trauma. Psychologists at Columbia University have more defined microaggressions as brief and commonplace daily verbal, behavioral, or environmental indignities, whether intentional or unintentional, that communicate hostile, derogatory, or negative slights and insults that potentially have harmful or unpleasant psychological impact on the target person or the group. That is a mouthful. This could be on the basis of race, income, religion, ableness, gender, immigration status, sexual orientation, or other characteristics like body type and size. Any marginalized group has the potential to be affected, including persons with mental health issues. So microaggressions add up and they wear out their targets. Not only do microaggressions harm mental and physical health, they can also undermine trust and service providers and caregivers. It is so important for us who work in helping professions to take extra training on cultural sensitivity. And while we won't be digging deeper into that during our time here today, I am mentioning it because understanding more about what is considered microaggression may help you identify them even within yourself and allow you to attempt to reduce and deal with your own unintentional microaggressions. So going back to our icon of transformative rage, now Professor Hulk, he talks about after years of treating the angry side of him as some kind of disease and something to get rid of, he starts to look at him as something that he just had to live with and figure out a way to gain control of it and integrate it into his life. During this scene in the Endgame, now that Hulk has changed, he's kind of ashamed of his previous behaviors.
All right, we all have our assignments. 2 stones uptown, 1 stone down. Stay low, keep an eye on the clock. Maybe smash a few things along the way.
I think it's gratuitous, but whatever.
For years, I've been treating the Hulk like some kind of disease, something to get rid of. But then I started looking at him as the cure. I put the brain and the brawn together. So we are going to do an exercise involving the intersection of gender, race, and rage in our culture. Who is allowed to be angry and how are they allowed to express it? Reminder of the differences that we discussed initially. Anger is an emotional response, so is outrage, and it can be felt appropriately in response to rudeness, injustice, abuse, etc. Rage is a reaction. Situations, circumstances, people, processes, and problems that tend to be in the past. Aggression is a behavior. Both anger and rage may lead to verbal or physical aggression. Okay. So I'm going to read this little blurb here, and then I'm going to talk about it a little bit here. On the left is Dr. Christine Blasey Ford, and on the right, SCOTUS Judge Brett Kavanaugh. This is during his confirmation hearings. Dr. Ford was asked to testify about her assertions that Kavanaugh sexually assaulted her in high school. So Ford initially wrote about her allegations in a letter that was eventually sent to Senator Dianne Feinstein of California, which is the ranking Democrat on the Senate Judiciary Committee. At the time, Ford reportedly expected her story to remain confidential and her identity anonymous. Ford decided to go public with her account after it was leaked and inaccurate reports emerged. Dr. Ford and her family moved out of their house and hired a private security detail because of death threats she received since coming forward and testifying in September of 2018. A Canadian newspaper reporter wrote the following: where Ford was self-possessed, Kavanaugh was aggressive, even bordering on belligerent, as he spoke over senators, cut them off, and in one instance accused them of mockery. Many noted that it was a textbook display of the double standard that allows men angry outbursts with no repercussions, while the same behavior works to discredit women. The going argument among critics and observers was that if Ford had responded in the same way as Kavanaugh, she would have likely been deemed hysterical. So can you guys think of other times when women in the media are scrutinized or held to a different standard than their male counterpart? Pull up my screen here. You guys can mic off or put it in the chat. The Me Too movement. Yes, absolutely. Anything else that you can think of? One of them that comes to my mind would be when Hillary Clinton was running for office, like her outfits and her appearance were talked about just as much as her politics were. And if she took a more aggressive stance, then she was called the B word. And this isn't to be like a political discussion about, which side is this. This is just to simply pointing out that, when a woman was running, she was held to a different standard of conduct than her male counterparts. Right, so we are coming, we've got about 4 minutes till 4. So I am going to skip over these. Is there any questions or things that we need to revisit? Don't quite hop off yet because I do have a QR code if you guys wouldn't mind filling out for me. We take feedback to heart. We make adjustments every time that we do these trainings based on your guys' feedback. So I am going to put that up here. And while that is up, yeah, I can take any questions that anybody might have. You can either mic off or you can put it in the chat. And if not, that is all that I have to do, or that is all for today. That would be our last slide. So thank you for jumping on today for our monthly meeting. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. I am going to just kind of hang out until, in case anybody has any questions that they want to ask or discuss that without everybody else on the line. So